the system that just ain't right. Gonna tear it down, gonna start a fight. Anarchy and numbers is my game. I'm the investor with no shame. Greed and corruption, that's the name of the game they play. It's all a shame. I won't play by their rules, I won't comply. Anarchy's the way. It's time to fly. I'll burn down the walls and break the chains, shatter the illusion.
And here we go. Welcome. I am Matt. This is the Anarchist Investor Live, coming at you every Monday through Friday at 12 Eastern, talking about contrarian investment, markets, the economy, how to protect and grow your money without getting it stolen by some dirty banksters. We're going to talk about some soon-to-be, or at least attempted theft here in a minute. A reminder, like the banner says, and like I ask at the top of every program, please help me out with the algo. Throw me a sub, a follow, a like, a share, and definitely tell me what you're looking at in the comments, whether it be your day-to-day job and what that means about the industry that you're working in, or investment-wise. What are you looking at investment-wise? What are you worried about? And also, my opinions on things. Let me know whether you see it the same way or whether or not you have a different viewpoint, because that's the way we get to a decent consensus. The other reminder is to sub to the Anarchist Investor Substack, so anarchistinvestor.substack.com. You can do that for free or as a paid member. This month, I'm giving away 4 annual paid subscriptions to the Anarchist Investor, where you'll get access to the model portfolio, as well as some other investment things that I'm going to be doing, so you can follow right along with how I'm putting money to work, especially because we're coming into some really turbulent economic times here. And it's going to be really important to understand and really with some intention, protect your money as well as put it to work for you. So that being said, let's pull down the banner and let's look at, well, I had silver up just because I like silver, big fan of silver. Silver and gold continue to be strong, but we're actually talking about real estate today. So I'm going to pull up the headline article. And in fact, before we even do that, I kind of want to take a little bit of a step back in time and talk just about the overall dynamics here within, I'll call it the economics of the generational wealth transfer that we're going through or about to go through. All right. Myself and my family, we've had to deal with this recently. A lot of families are going to be dealing with this, but this is an article out of NBC. And it was written in December of 2023, though there have been many articles like this that have been written in the last few years talking about essentially the retirement and unfortunately passing away of baby boomers, and then what that means for the wealth transfer that's going to happen in terms of their estates being handed to Gen X and millennials. And so the thought process being that there's going to be a huge amount of money passing hands. Experts say baby boomers should give more than $50 trillion to their heirs. But for many, and this is the big asterisk that they're looking at, but for many, healthcare costs will claim the bulk of the wealth. Now, this might be a targeted piece. Who knows what NBC's angling for? I can tell you by healthcare costs, what I would also argue is that inflation and also the coming economic turbulence is going to eat up a lot of this cash. Now, there are some very interesting notes drawn up in this article further down. And so, there's definitely this sense that there's going to be a lot of money changing hands. But the problem is it actually going to be passed on as generational wealth, or is it going to get essentially burned because of various, economic factors that are out there and various economic cycles? Well, I can tell you that there will be a significant amount of cash and investments passed on. But unfortunately, I think that there's going to be a number of people who continue to keep those investments in a way that would have worked from 1980 until 2020. And if they continue to keep things invested that way, they're going to be at risk of literally lighting that money on fire. Later, I'm going to show you an article and a couple of news stories where I do believe that the banks and the politicians are looking to steal a lot of this generational wealth that is supposed to be transferred. And so I'm going to connect those dots in a minute. Before I do that, I want to make sure that you're looking at this next article that also talks about essentially the effects on different generations when we go through a recession or basically tough economic times. Okay. And so this article is written out of the Oxford Institute of Population Aging, all right, University of Oxford. And it basically, this is back in November of 2022. Of note, interestingly enough, is October of 2022. And I'll pull up, just from my own reference, I'll pull up, like the stock market indexes and things like that back in November of 2022. And I'll tell you where we were at. We were essentially in this place of very dire. I mean, things looked dire back in November of 2022. The Federal Reserve, as well as reserve banks throughout the world, were raising rates. Everyone was worried that growth was about to come crashing down. There was a huge reset in terms of people's investment portfolios at the time. Lots of people selling treasuries in order to purchase other types of assets or just hold cash at the time. And gold and silver were also performing well in the lead up to that. But that being said, this was written in a period of time of great worry because at the end of 2022, everyone expected the United States, as well as the entire world, to fall into a very deep recession, which, interestingly enough, most of the world has followed through and fallen into that recession. The United States, on the other hand, through some mysticism and some cooking of some numbers and some shell game type movements at the Federal Reserve, as well as in the White House and at the federal level of the government, has been able to quote unquote avoid that recession. It's my contention that they've just kicked the can down the road and we're probably in it right now. But that being said, when this article was written, there was a lot of concern. You had seniors in the United Kingdom that were having to choose to either heat their apartment or because they're on a pension that did not react well to inflationary pressures and increasing costs of specifically energy when it came to the conflict, now war in Ukraine with Russia. Many seniors were choosing between heating their apartment or eating. Okay. You had many pensioners who were talking in Great Britain as well as throughout the EU about essentially descending into extreme poverty because of how quickly and how dynamically things had changed. A word of caution for anyone who thinks that their golden years should include a hefty dose of relying on any kind of government entity for your income and your well being. But that being said, the article focuses on the impacts of recessions on different types of generations, different age generations, specifically older generations. And what they actually found was older generations aren't impacted as much as other generations during a recessionary experience because they typically have a lower weighting of their investments towards like high risk assets. Okay. Speak of high risk assets, we'll look at the meme stocks again today that are rallying. Please, if you're holding them, take profit right now. If you have profit, take profit. Stop playing the lottery. But anyway, they have less of their investment assets dedicated towards like high beta type things, high risk type things. And so they have a lot of bonds and whatnot. And they also have a much higher amount of investment capital than say middle-aged folks and younger folks that are just entering the workforce, obviously. And so they take a little bit of a smaller hit at the front end, and then also they're much better equipped to be able to make up the stagger after a recession. So actually, older folks are they get ahead of the game, whereas the middle-aged folks and then the younger adults, they can take some really big hits. Now, the good news is that if you're middle-aged and you're younger, you have a longer runway, right? So you can recover from that in terms of your years. Older adults don't have as much time but they do have assets. And so the study actually found that older adults do have a better or easier time recovering from these periods of time. Though there are some side notes, such as you see a lot of economic help that happens from older family members to middle-aged and younger family members. And so during those times, you see a lot of loans and cash gifts and transfers of assets that happen to the young to help them make ends meet. Which, by the way, I fully expect that to happen here in the future as well, in the near future, because of the economic environment that we're moving into, which will be part of the early transfer of assets. Something to also remember when we're talking about transfers of assets, whether it be the individual is still alive or whether or not they pass away and it's part of an estate, there's always tax implications. And so those tax implications, believe me, the state, meaning the government, is constantly looking at those things, especially when they're running record deficits and they're spending over $1 trillion a year just to pay interest on the overall debt burden, here in the United States. There's also a note about health. So health can actually be a very major impact, or there could be a major negative impact on both the physical and mental health of the elderly during these periods of time. And again, the middle-aged and young have a lot longer runway to like recover from that. And so older adults typically bear a little bit more of a burden during that period because of that. And not to mention the fact that there's not like each one of these groups isn't completely homogeneous. You have a number of older adults that might not have as much in terms of their investment base. And so those folks obviously couldn't make up the stagger the way that older folks that have a bigger investment nest egg were able to make up that stagger. I also saw there's a video, I should have linked it in the details in the description, but there's a video talking about an investment guy from, believe it or not, the EU, talking about how the variability in your portfolio makes a much bigger difference in terms of whether or not you run out of money over time than, say, the absolute returns in the portfolio. And the thought process being that if you have a portfolio that doesn't grow as high over time, or at least the returns every year aren't as high as the average returns of, say, being in the US stock market, because the US stock market can have these large rises and large falls, you actually ended up better off if you're a retiree, because you're typically drawing cash out of those accounts. And if you have to draw cash at a time when your investment portfolio is very low, you end up with like not just a double whammy, but it could be like a 10x whammy, because every single dollar that you pull out when your portfolio is down is a dollar that you then can't reinvest in order to get those compounding gains to then make up the stagger when if the economy actually recovers. We're also facing an issue right now where since 2008, the economy hasn't recovered. It's been this phantom recovery, and all of this declaration that, like, we're back and, the economy has finally gotten all these jobs back and everything like that is a load of bunk, because anyone who understands the way that statistics work is the per capita numbers is actually what's really important. And so when you lose a lot of people from the labor pool and they basically become disenfranchised, a lot more people are on government programs, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That's not exactly a recovery. You can make it look like one, but it doesn't actually end up being that way. You could also end up, kind of manufacturing business activity by making people draw down on their savings, which is what's happened over the last couple of years as well. But so from that standpoint, older folks are going to go through this process of passing along their accumulated wealth, right, to millennials and Gen Xers. And we're going to see what this process looks like. But you had better believe that anyone who has, some potential gain from this process is going to be looking at it and trying to leverage that process in their favor. All right. So let's look here. First of all, we have people that are completely, I want to say that they're economically ignorant, but I actually think that they know what they're doing, which basically just makes them evil. Okay. But so we know right now that there's an issue in the real estate market. Okay, there's pockets of the real estate market that are just awful, and then there's pockets of the real estate market that are still booming, right? And it's really the top end. The top end of the real estate market is what's doing well. So this is what politicians think is a fantastic idea to try and fix the real estate market. They're not going to approach any of the supply issue, or at least not directly. They're not going to get new homes built. Here's what they're going to do. They want to give new home buyers $400 a month, and that's actually in the form of a advance on a $10,000 tax credit. Okay, these idiots are running huge deficits, and they're still going to run huge deficits because of stuff like this. They're going to give a $10,000 tax credit for anyone who's a first-time home buyer in the form of $400 per month. And that's supposed to offset the interest costs of purchasing a home, right? Higher mortgage interest, they're going to give you $400 a month in order to offset that. That's going to drive up prices. And they think that offering this also to people who are still in the first home that they ever purchased, if they put that on the market and sell it, they're also going to give it to those folks when they go buy a new house somewhere else and it be their second home. So this tax credit is supposed to be extended to first-time home buyers, and I don't know how they're going to, actually quality control this BS, but second-time home buyers, right? Second home buyers are also going to qualify. And that's supposed to compel lots of people to flood the market with inventory so that the poor first-time home buyers can get into homes. And these people that are just sitting on their homes because they don't want to roll the mortgage into a new home at a higher interest rate, it'll actually get them to sell their house. Well, here's the problem. This isn't a permanent program. The pitch is 2 years. Okay. If you're looking at this and you get 2 years worth of help, but then every year after that, you now revert to the higher payment, are you going to lock that in? If you are sitting on a house and you haven't been selling because you're worried about, you have a 3.5% mortgage, and now you're going to have to roll that into a 7.5% mortgage or an 8% mortgage. Do you really give a crap about $400 a month for 2 years? I mean, after that 2 years, you can be screwed, depending on how the economy runs here into the future. I mean, that $400 a month might keep you afloat in that new house for the first 2 years, but then what, right? This is the constant issue with some of these, most of these government programs. This is just point stimulus, and the difference is, and also of note that at the same time, President Biden is telling you he wants to give people these credits and things like that in order to make purchases to try and kick the can even further down the road and worsen the fallout. Okay, he's also telling you that he wants to permanently increase tax rates, or at least more permanently increase tax rates than this. Well, think about that. You have 2 years of handouts, but then you have a much longer runway of higher tax rates. How does that help anyone? Right? At the end of the day, it's just a theft on one side, and then giving a little bit back of what you're stealing in the future to get people to shut up and be happy. Okay. And what it effectively is going to do from an economic standpoint is this is going to do nothing but in the areas where there were, weakness, the regions that were weak because it was lower income homes, and all of the areas that have the higher income homes still are doing all right and prices are still maintaining or going higher. The lower end regions, as far as the average home price, that's going to start to drive those up, because all you're affecting is the demand side. They think they're all smart. No, well, we're going to give it to second-time home buyers too, and that's going to fix the problem. Well, no, it isn't. There's tons of people out there that are on their second or third home, and they're not selling. There's tons of BlackRocks out there that have spent the last 10 years buying up single-family homes. You think they're selling? No, they want to be renters, right? Complete lunacy, all right? But so now that's just the beginning of it. This is the ridiculousness of what we're dealing with in terms of trying to positively impact the housing market. Now let's look at the brilliance that's coming out of this administration, and it's being spun by their media counterparts, their financial media counterparts that are supposed to introduce these ideas as these amazing things that are going to help everyone. All right. I think everyone's familiar with the fact that prices are higher. Okay. Whether you recognize that it's, supply disruption or inflation, call it whatever you want, prices are higher. Got it. Okay. How are we going to help people? Well, this is what we're going to do. We're going to take their saved up equity in their home, and we're going to get them to release that equity. Okay. Now, hold on. Let me see if I can't find the right tab here in order to pull this up. This is the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen in my entire life. For some reason, it's not giving me the correct tab for this Financial Times article. Hold on. Let me see if I can do it a different way. But so anyway, there's an article in the Financial Times that effectively was written, let's see, May 3rd. So a week ago, a little bit more than a week ago. And it's entitled "The Mortgage Reform That Could Unleash the Next Big U.S. Stimulus." Okay. Now, do you think this mortgage reform is going to be like something along the line of, again, giving people money or something like that? No, this is their grand idea. Their grand idea is they're going to get Fannie and Freddie, who only participate in the primary mortgage game. Okay. So when you take out a mortgage on your house, that primary mortgage, a lot of times it's written by a mortgage company and the bank is providing the money for it. But a lot of times that bank then transfers the ownership of that mortgage to Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. Okay. And Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac are effectively monetizing that mortgage for the bank. And so the bank gets a nice VIG and gets that loan off of its books if it doesn't want to hold on to it. And it gets a nice little hit of cash, right? So Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac collect a lot of these first mortgages. What they haven't been doing is they haven't been doing anything on like the home loan or like the secondary home loan or line of credit side of the mortgage business, of the real estate lending business. Okay. So this brilliant idea is there's and I'm just going to read straight from the article. It's written by Meredith, writer is chief executive of Meredith Whitney Advisory Group. Okay. And I believe the person's name is Meredith Whitney. So it's basically just Meredith Whitney who's writing this. And like I said, this is probably a talking head that's in the corner of the current administration. What if I told you there could be an unprecedented stimulus injection into the U.S. economy that will cost the government nothing and add not $1 to the national deficit? Oh, really? Where do I sign up? Oh, all right. Let's find out what it's actually about. As early as this summer, a proposed move could begin to unleash almost $1 trillion into consumers' wallets. Okay. Where's it coming from? By the autumn, it could be on its way to 2 trillion. It's more better. I wish I had like a Billy Blade. Was it Billy Blades? Billy Blades kind of, but wait, there's more, right? Like, so 1 trillion into consumers' wallets, and then by autumn, holy crap, we could have another 2. We have another trillion. We're just raining trillions of dollars. Where's it coming from? Well, last month, the government-sponsored mortgage finance agency Freddie Mac filed a proposal with its regulators. Hard eye roll. The Federal House Finance Agency to enter into the secondary mortgage market, otherwise known as home equity loans. This was a smart move by Freddie, and the FHFA will do a lot of good by approving it. Despite the more than $32 trillion in equity on homeowner balance sheets, very little of it has been tapped through home equity loans. Oh, so what you're telling me is all of that value that's built up in the real estate agency, your grand idea is to monetize that equity in those homes by basically giving everyone loans. And then they're going to take those loans and put them into their wallet and spend it on stuff. So effectively, what they're telling you is they want you to take the built up value in your home and give you some quote unquote price relief in terms of subsidizing the interest rate you would have to pay on these home equity loans and lines of credit. And then you could use that money to buy shit like cheap Chinese shit and cars, because no one's buying cars. or they're buying them, but they just can't make the payments. Or you could refinance your credit cards. The credit card balances are at record highs, but we have $32 trillion in home equity. We'll just tap that so we can refinance the credit cards and spend fucking more money that we don't have. Excuse my language, but this is absolute insanity. This is and this is it gets even worse. Like, I'm not even at level 1 right now, okay? My apologies, but I should have given everyone like a heads up. Like, this is a rant day because this is absolute. Like, if you were trying to destroy the economy, this is exactly what you would do. Because in the very next paragraph, now we hearken back to 2007. Because you know what happened in 2007 and 2008 was freaking amazing. It was great. It was an amazing time for everyone. In 2007, to continue reading, just before the financial crisis, there was more than $700 billion in home equity loans outstanding. Today, there's roughly 350 billion. So they've been cut in half. Probably rightfully so, because most of those homes were underwater. Home prices have risen more than 70% since then. So why have home equity loans halved? Well, after the financial crisis, banks weren't in a financial state to lend any freaking money. They were all underwater. And so that's why they could barely even make first mortgages. They weren't going to go out on the line and make an even riskier second mortgage or home equity line of credit. They had to batten down the hatches and get more conservative the way that they should have. In fact, most of them should have battened down the hatches permanently and imploded, because that's basically what needed to happen. But they didn't. And so now this writer, Miss what's her name? Meredith Whitney, is lamenting the fact that banks aren't able to loan. We need to create more debt. And that debt is going to be really secure, and it's going to be great for everyone because it's going to be securitized. It's going to be secured by the equity that's built up in people's homes. So not only do we have problems where people have record high credit card debt, they can't pay their home loans, they can barely pay for food and heat their homes and things like that. What we're going to do is we're going to get them to liquidate. Okay. This is a word that she doesn't use, but this is effectively what this does. We're going to get them to liquidate the equity in their homes. And that way they can buy all of the rest of this crap that they probably shouldn't have been buying all along. Right? Like, since 2008, someone who was responsible, if the government actually worked for you, someone who was responsible starting in 2009, 2010, after all of this stuff went down, should have been like, look, we're going to put all this financial stuff in place in order to fix things, but y'all shouldn't spend. You should batten down the hatches yourselves. You should put as much money away as possible. But they knew they couldn't, and they engineered an economy that had low interest rates. So who the heck is putting money away? You're penalized by saving, right? They engineered an economy that was effectively, not worth saving a dollar. You were better off with $100 of debt versus $1 of savings, right? Well, now they're telling you that all of that savings that you have locked up in your home, all the liquid dollars are gone, right? Those savings accounts, they're sitting in US treasuries, and most of them are owned by really rich people. Okay. And then all the working class schlubs, all the middle class and lower, okay, y'all don't have any cash, but guess what? You have a house, and you can use that house like a credit card so that you can still go to Disneyland and go to the overpriced movies at AMC Theater and go buy eggs that cost $52 a dozen. Like, liquidate that. It's okay. It'll get you through the tough times. As if there's any expectation that the tough times are going to stop, right? Or get any better. They could get worse from here. And they're telling this writer, and effectively what Fannie Mae and Ginnie Mae and Freddie Mac are going to try and do, is essentially get people to liquidate what remaining savings they have built up in the real estate market. And they want to get, essentially, themselves, they're going to leverage a little bit, and then they expect the other banks to follow suit, because once they become the buyer of last resort with this crap, all the other banks will just We'll just do 2007, 2008 all over again. Except in this case, it's not going to be new home purchases. It's going to be homes people already own. So then when it's all said and done, no one has any equity left, right? I don't want to be that guy, but I mean, maybe I am that guy. When the WEF says you're not going to own anything and you're going to be happy about it, this is the freaking way, man. Like, this is how you get there. People who go, oh, things are expensive. How do I find more money? Oh, I can't find any more money. Maybe I should stop spending on things. And someone from the government goes, whoa, hold on. No. You don't have to stop spending. You don't have to be frugal. You could keep Netflix and your 5 other on-demand TV services and your trip to Disney World that costs you $500 a day to go to a stupid amusement park and continue buying overpriced food and cars that are $100,000 when they should be selling for like a quarter of that. No, you don't have to stop buying those things. Just take what you saved up in your home all along and just you can use that to buy those things. Meanwhile, you buy those things and they're worth less, if not zero, like a moment after you purchase them. Gone. All the home equity that's built up, gone. But this is supposed to be an amazing thing. It's going to stimulate the economy. This is freaking broken window economics on steroids. Please do not fall victim to this. Let your older family members know it is better that they, batten down the hatches and just try and live on less. Do not let them go out there on the line and take out debt just to pay for daily expenses. Obviously, everyone's situation is unique. But these blood-sucking vampires, they've taken everything. They've mortgaged people to the hilt in every area, except they haven't taken all of the home equity yet. They've taken all of the homes that people have been priced out of, but they haven't taken the equity that's built up yet. And so as the boomers fade off into the sunset, and they're trying to leave something to their kids and their grandkids, these folks don't want to let them. They want to take it on the way out. It's oof, man. I feel like I need to take a deep breath. This is like too much. I got no coffee left either. It's killing me. Unbelievable. All right. Let's transition a little bit. We're going to talk about markets here. Bryce chiming in saying, do you see 401ks as worthy investments with today's money, or are physical assets a better bet? It's a good point. So I wrote a article, or a good question. So I wrote an article on the Substack a couple of months ago, and it was basically my investment philosophy. Okay. And I think it might have already gone to the paid status. So there's a piece of it that you can get if you're a free subscriber. But I'm more than willing to like hand out pieces of that, regardless of whether or not you're a paid or a free subscriber. I make the argument that if you're given a match at your company, take advantage of the match. It's free money. I would take the match. And if you're young, I would take the match and I would put that money away into an IRA. But again, you have to talk to your tax professional because sometimes you need the help to not get nailed on the taxes, especially if you're like right on the boundary line between a higher tax rate or a lower tax rate. So you got to talk to like an accountant or something. But for the most part, I would say in general, if you're getting a match on your 401k, that's fine. Okay. Where I would invest inside of the 401k, I mean, I also wrote an article a long time ago about how most investments nowadays within 401ks and these structured investment vehicles, they're all basically ETFized. They all go with each other because most of them have the same main investments, and most people don't know what the top 1, 2, or 3 stocks or bonds that they're invested in. They have no clue, right? But what they probably are is invested overweight into just a handful of things, even though these mutual funds and ETFs are telling you that you're diversified, okay? Because they have so much crossover nowadays. Not to mention the fact that even if they didn't have crossover, they all move together because if one thing does well or a handful of things does well in the ETF, the whole ETF moves higher, which means those stocks that did well, they're dragging the rest of the stocks along with them, which causes malinvestment because money shouldn't go into those stocks. They don't deserve it. And yet they're going to get money anyway because they're in the ETF with these other investments. Okay. There's the commodification of the casino. Outside of that, I don't think that you should be putting tons of money to work in the stock market. I think you can do better. Once you get that match on your 401k, I think you can do better in real estate. I think you can do better by creating a side hustle or starting your own business. The ROI there is much higher. And I think a much greater component of people's portfolios need to be in assets that provide safety and insurance. It used to be people said, oh, like have 5 or 10% in, gold and silver. I don't think that's true. I don't think it hasn't been true since the 80s, but they've always been pointing at the stock market gains since the 80s. That like, oh, you don't need gold and silver. The stock market is the greatest inflation hedge. Well, it is until it isn't. Okay. A lot of people thought it was a great inflation hedge headed into 2008. And then their portfolio got cut down by 40%. What a great inflation hedge. Right? There was deflation. There wasn't 40% deflation. The dollar didn't go up by 40%. Okay. There's overvaluation and very risky investment that happens in the stock market, and it's by design. Right. And so I would take advantage of whatever free money that you're getting from your employer. But outside of that, I think, a piece of your investment portfolio has to be actually a large piece of your investment portfolio should be in safe stuff. I know I dropped an F-bomb earlier. I'm trying to not curse as much here into the close, but it should be in safer stuff, right? I definitely am a big gold and silver bug. I think gold and silver continue to be a good investment right now. And again, I don't buy gold and silver to get rich. I buy gold and silver to not get poor. There's a big difference. All right. I'm also not like a huge Bitcoin guy. Have a little bit. I think Bitcoin is going to be digital art, and it's going to have a historical value going forward. I think people will own Bitcoin. It will have some kind of value moving forward. I don't know what that value looks like. I don't know if it's $1 million a coin or $1,000 a coin, but I think people will hold on to it because it's essentially a fractionalized equity stake in the collected digital works of Satoshi Nakamoto. I think that's what Bitcoin's legacy will be in 15, 20 years. There are cryptos right now and blockchains that are out competing. They're out innovating Bitcoin. Bitcoin is just running on the momentum that was created during this economic cycle. Okay. Once the recession hits, Bitcoin, along with pretty much all of the crypto space, will get hit as well, and probably will get hit really bad. I mean, you'll see a lot of these cryptos that are basically worthless, and the only reason why people pump money into them is the same reason why they're pumping money into AMC and GameStop stock the last 2 days, is because there's some kind of story or some kind of justification, but it's not investment quality. It's not because there's good business activity happening on those blockchains. It's because they have a cool logo or their favorite influencer bought it. None of those are good reasons to be in an investment. You'll probably end up seeing the crypto space take a giant hit. But that being said, does it mean you shouldn't be in crypto? No, because nothing's guaranteed. True diversification includes having money in different places that are working for you. Okay. And yeah, I think what will emerge from the next crypto bear market, an actual bear market, because it'll coincide with a really bad bear market for all risk assets. What will emerge will end up being the next generation of really innovative cryptos. And I'm about to run an interview Thursday afternoon with a dude who works along with and is a champion of one of those. And so we'll talk more about that. And I'll talk a little bit of Hive with him. and that will be released sometime next week. I'm working right now on. It's probably going to be a two-parter. I already in the can. I have an interview with Patrick Smith from over at Anarchist. We're going to talk about Roger Ver, or we did talk about Roger Ver. Talk about Bitcoin, Bitcoin Cash, some of the dynamics of the crypto space. We also talk some politics and stuff like that. So that's why I'm going to separate it into two parts, because I want one part to be like really the economic conversation and the other one to be kind of like the philosophical, economic slash political conversation. But really, at the end of the day, you have to be spread out. And so the 401k is, I mean, a 401k is also just another mechanism for stealing your money. When you look at the fee structures and things like that within a 401k, a lot of times you're not getting out of it as much as what everyone else who's involved in that industry is getting out of it. They're making way more money than you are. And because they do it in volume, they do it in fee structure, they do it because you get taxed on the stuff once it comes out. So, like, all of these things work in their favor, and they've leveraged it in your favor. So, you're not in control of your 401k. I don't like things I'm not in control of. Or at the very least, if you're in a 401k plan or system within your employer, like, they're picking a 401k administrator. You didn't get to pick that administrator. You didn't get a say. Most employers don't allow you to vote on who the 401k administrator is, right? So you literally have no control. You're handing your money over to someone you haven't vetted. You're assuming that the HR director vetted them or whatever. But 9 times out of 10, it's just because they have a reputable name, right? Like, it's probably, Franklin Templeton or who else are the big ones out there? And like, BlackRock and a number of the others, they run 401k plans as well. A lot of the big banks do as well, right? They just have a reputable name. Maybe they buy the HR director a nice steak dinner, and that's how they become your 401k administrator. You get no say. You don't get to see the person or people. You don't get to vet them. You don't get to look them in the eyes and see whether or not they seem like they're screwing you or whether or not they're actually looking out for you. So from that standpoint, like, I would not be putting huge amounts of money into my 401k. I would not. Okay. Granted, again, financial disclaimer. I'm not a financial representative. I'm not a financial planner. I'm just telling you my own personal take and what I do. Okay? So it's ultimately up to you to make those decisions. All right. Let's look through the market really quickly. That's like 42 minutes of rant, man. This story got me hot and bothered, man. Yeah, I was I was like under the collar when I read this thing. I had to do one of these. It was like, damn. All right. The casino is flat to slightly down. Some of the indexes are up today, but it's flat to slightly down. Still not a huge amount of like market moving data or anything like that. I can tell you, though, that the data from the past couple of weeks has been just absolutely abysmal. I think we had producer price index data that looked like it came in hot. Again, I really don't think these numbers have anything to do with actual inflation because that hasn't hit yet. Those dollars have not been deployed into the marketplace. They're being sat on and warehoused in different places. When they do finally get unleashed, maybe in the form of people monetizing the equity in their home. Jesus Christ. You know what I should have titled this? I should have titled this episode Reverse Mortgages for All. Right? That's what the title of this episode should have been. Do you have any equity in your home? Just reverse mortgage it. It'll all be okay. Go buy chicken tendies with it in GameStop stock. You'll be all right. Please don't go do that. I was being sarcastic. So the casino's flat to up a little bit today. PPI came in a little bit hot. So I think, some people are averse to that. We'll look at fixed income in a minute just to see whether or not people are buying or selling U.S. Treasuries as a result of it. The dollar is weak a little bit. It's been weak here for a little while now. But again, dollar made a really strong move over a couple of months' time. It's now taking a little bit of a break. I would expect if the economic numbers continue to come in weak, especially because we got some of those ISM numbers and just the employment numbers, people are afraid of their not only getting another job that pays better, they're afraid they might not be able to keep the job they have now. And we're not talking about just in the manufacturing sector. We're talking about in the services sector, the sector that is the biggest proportion of the U.S. economy. People are afraid of just being able to hold on to their job. Okay. So that's a giant cloud that's hanging over everything. Consumer sentiment took a huge step back. I mean, we've got some really bad economic numbers that hit the last couple of weeks. I'm actually surprised that the market is up. But that being said, again, the worse the numbers get, the closer we get to the Federal Reserve cutting interest rates and saving everyone. Also sarcasm, uh, which means you'll see a rally, and then typically after you get that cut, you see huge losses in the stock indexes, especially if we're in a recession like I think we're in now. So yeah, dollar's a little bit weak, but I definitely think it could catch another tailwind, especially if finally people start to come to the realization that we are in recession. What else am I looking at? Oil continues to be weak, man. Caught a little bit of a bid at the end of last week, but man, it's weak today. We're down at $78 a barrel. The weaker this gets, the worse the prognosis is for the economy, U.S. economy and the world economy. This thing ain't getting cheaper because tons of supply is coming online. It's not what's happening. You're seeing a decrease in demand. And it's also really alarming. Like I said last week, it's really alarming that this is happening. Gas is weak. Really, RBOB gas is weak today. This is, the gas that you put in your car. It's really alarming that this is happening leading into like May and June because summer's driving season. If you're a commodities trader, specifically an energy trader, you're usually buying this time of year because you're anticipating that prices are going to rise with everyone vacationing and driving all over the country and stuff like that, as well as the cost of other things like air conditioning, right, that run on natural gas and other kinds of energies. Usually you see the energy complex catching a little bit of a bid right now in anticipation of that. It's not happening. That's really, really bad sign. Copper continues to be strong. Here's a narrative on copper that I hadn't seen before. So, copper, interestingly enough, more frequently, a lot of people call it Dr. Copper, and they say like, well, this is about the health of the economy and whatnot. Well, I think increasingly people are priced out of, believe it or not, buying silver. Silver used to be known as the poor man's gold. So now in paper markets, I think a lot of people, as opposed to just buying silver, they go buy copper to get exposure to, I would call it, inflation sensitive commodities. And so silver and gold have been strong. Copper's continue to be strong as well. And again, not because of industrial demand. This is because people are looking for safe havens. And I guess part of the place that they're looking for safe havens is copper. All right. Gold and silver, like I said, are up again today. Gold continues to flirt with this line of resistance. Silver's holding it. Silver popped up above this line of resistance, sitting over the top of it. It's declining. So, like at this point, it's basically in the like $28.38 range. Silver's trading at $28.66. So we're above that line. So we're continuing to see whether or not the silver squeeze has this next leg that's going to get us through $30 an ounce. I do think we'll get there. Aluminum continues to hold up this price, pulled back a little bit, but again, that's tariff talk. That's really it as far as commodities go. Let's look over at fixed income really quickly. High yield bonds flat to up slightly. Again, just marking time here, waiting for the next shoe to fall. I would expect if you see high yield bonds pop because the Fed cuts rates or signals they're going to cut rates, it's going to be a sucker's rally. I would not get in. I would not look to buy risk assets. I think it's going to be a sucker's rally. The worst case scenario is it just rolls over and goes to Hades here, which could also happen. So we'll have to see. But what would be super interesting is you had this region of consolidation. If HYG fell through and basically suckered short sellers into getting short, then it ate them up by coming back up into the range. And then what it might do is it might rally again and sucker the longs, okay, before it finally goes in the direction that it's ultimately going to go. Again, this is our leading indicator for risk appetite. I'll call it in the casino most of all. All right. Big money's buying U.S. Treasuries. Yields are down, which means the Treasury prices are up. Big money's buying them. Again, this is typically not a good sign. People typically aren't buying Treasuries because they're expecting good times to come. In fact, I I don't know. It's a mixed picture today. It's not so much that the short end is getting bought up more, but you're definitely seeing more buying pressure in the like 5-year US Treasury than you are in, say, like the 10-year or the 20-year or the 30-year. So, yeah, I mean, it's a little bit biased towards the short end of the curve, which means anticipated rate cuts. And I don't think those rate cuts are going to be coming out of the benevolence of Jerome Powell's heart. It's going to come out of necessity. All right, finally, let's look at crypto. Bitcoin's taking it on the chin a little bit today. But again, that being said, it's still in this like really prolonged, what looks like a bull flag. We'll see whether or not that continues to play out in that direction. Or, like I said, you could see this thing rally along with the casino if we get that rate cut news. So Bitcoin continues to be weak today. Lots of profit taking from anyone that rode this wave higher. We'll see whether or not there's another leg of demand to come in Bitcoin. I get the same impression that if we do see that before we see some kind of breakdown first, that will be your exit liquidity, meaning that would be time to take profits. I would actually like Bitcoin to take a leg lower first before it does that. If all of a sudden you do see Bitcoin shoot up higher, especially if it's on lower relative strength, that could be a sign that it's time to get out and wait for a better price to get in at once the financial reality hits most folks within the market. Total crypto market cap is down slightly less than Bitcoin is right now, which means the rest of the crypto space is slightly outperforming Bitcoin, but for the most part, everything's down. So it's not even really a moral victory. It just is what it is. So everything's really kind of down, 2 to 7%, give or take, based off of, the liquidity and the market cap of these various cryptos. Hive keeps getting below or close to 30. So whenever it's under 30, I'm a buyer. And so the way I do that is I convert my Hive back dollars, which is the stable coin, on the Hive blockchain. I convert that back into the actual crypto. And it's been working well. I am in the process of trying to schedule an interview with a dude who runs 3Speak, which is an app over on Hive. It's basically a blockchain competitor to YouTube. And Dan is a huge, huge Hive guy. He's one of the most influential people in that ecosystem. And we're going to be talking about using Hive back dollars as a medium for an actual currency, actual exchange, high throughput, low fee structure. In fact, in most cases, 0 fee. And it's, I believe it's through the Lightning Network. There might also be other avenues to be able to use that. But he's actually been on a tour going through a lot of areas within Mexico. And that's where he lives down there, getting business owners online with Hive back dollars to be able to take digital payment on their smartphone. So super exciting stuff. Hopefully I can line him up for an interview this Thursday sometime, and then I'll have that out within next week or two. With that, that's all I'm really looking at. That's kind of like the big story today as far as the market is concerned. Like I said, today was a rant day, man. I can't stress to people enough that this is time to get really conservative. Like, cut as many expenses as you can. I actually put out on Twitter the other day, we had a big pile of change. I counted up that change, rolled it, took it to the bank, deposited it, and I'm going to be starting up a Kinesis Money account with it. Anyone who's unfamiliar with Kinesis, it's kind of like a checking account, but it is built off the blockchain. And there's a 1-for-1 backing of each one of the blockchain cryptos with physical gold and silver in a custodian type account that's held in multiple locations that Kinesis controls, and they're all audited. So you basically have a marriage between gold and silver and crypto, and it gives you the option to not just buy gold and silver, save in gold and silver, gives you the option to earn a yield on your gold and silver, and it also gives you the option to be able to use gold and silver as a checking account. And you also get rewarded for using your gold and silver for purchases, and you get paid in crypto, which basically means you're getting paid in gold and silver for that purchase activity as well. So super exciting. But what I'm saying is, dude, start looking around your house, man. I mean, like, depending on what kind of financial situation you're in, If you have excess stuff around the house, you've been looking to get out, you're looking to declutter, you have things that have some value, but you just don't want to hold on to them anymore. Dude, get them out there. Get them on eBay, get them on Facebook Marketplace, poll your friends, see if anyone needs anything, and try and liquidate and turn it into cash, gold, silver, crypto, whatever you can. Okay? Because we're headed into a really bad situation coming up here. And I think a lot of people are going to be caught napping. They're going to use the same old adage like, oh, well, we didn't know. Why didn't anyone tell us? I'm telling you. Okay? Any of those extraneous monthly services that you're paying for right now, cut that shit out. Okay? If you don't use it that frequently, if you're not getting much out of it, cut it out. You like movies? If you have a DVD player, old DVD player sitting around like a Blu-ray or even a regular one, go to your local library. Take out DVDs. Don't pay for all these services and stuff like that. Get out of variable rate debt. If you have credit card debt, if you have variable rate student loan debt, if you have a variable rate mortgage, right? Like any personal loans that are on a floating rate, get out from under that stuff because they will bankrupt you. And we're going to go into a period of time where employment is going to be a luxury for many people. We're probably going to see prices drop, but it's going to be because a lot of people aren't working and they don't have the means to be able to buy anything. All right. You might as well monetize the things you can monetize now. And no, I'm not talking about taking a loan on your house. That's ridiculous. I'm talking about, that piece of exercise equipment that you can get $100 for on Facebook Marketplace. Flip it. Okay. Get the cash in. If you've been looking to start a side hustle or learn a skill to be able to be self-reliant. I'm teaching myself woodworking and doing that to make money, but also have a skill here into the future. If you ever wanted to learn a skill, outfit your workshop or whatever, invest in some actual things that are going to be able to make you money or have some use value moving forward. Do it, man. Take the stuff that's in your house that you're not using, that you're just kind of sitting there and it's withering away in terms of what value it does have. Get it gone and use it to get some actual value out of it. Like I said, invest in yourself, or gold and silver is a good option. I mean, hold it in cash, because for a short period of time, not forever, but for a short period of time, dollars will be worth more, believe it or not, more than they are today. But just for a short period of time. I'm not saying stick it in your mattress and forget about it for the next 10 years. That's the way you die a slow death from 1,000 paper cuts due to inflation. But yeah, that's it. That's all I got for today. So I want to say thank you. I appreciate everyone. Another fantastic Monday show. Actually, no, today's Tuesday. What the hell am I talking about? I'm losing days, guys. A fantastic Tuesday show. I will be back tomorrow, which is Wednesday at noon Eastern. And I want to say thank you for everyone. If you made it this far, again, help me with the algo. Give me a thumbs up, a like, a follow, a share, a subscribe. And it'll go a long way to helping me out, but also helping others out that really could do with this information. Because we got some tough times ahead, man. But I'm here, and hopefully you're here with me, and we'll get through it together. So with that, I appreciate everyone. Have a great afternoon. Peace.
Stuck in a system that just ain't right. Gonna tear it down. Gonna start a fight. Anarchy and numbers is my game. I'm the investor with no shame. Greed and corruption, that's the name of the game they play. It's all a shame. I won't play by their rules. I won't comply. Anarchy's the way. It's time to fly. with my rebellious spirit. Watch me grow.